Let's just jump into it. Another coffee and dev live stream with our coffee here. And we're going to cover today, which is salary negotiations, because I thought this was a good add-on to the last one, which was about interviews for co-ops. And obviously, if you are interviewing as a co-op, the next phase, assuming you pass your interviews, is an offer, which is going to turn into negotiations. Let's talk about how it actually starts earlier than you think. The negotiation phase starts even before the negotiation phase. It starts when you first are kind of applying for the job, and recruitment's going to ask you basically, how much you want and things like this. And even before that phase, you as an individual need to do your market research. You need to be looking around on Glassdoor, Levels FYI, LinkedIn has a salary insight thing as well, if you didn't know. And you need to have an idea of what the range for your position should be. And it gets a little bit more difficult, obviously, as more companies are remote. You need to not only look at maybe your individual position, like physical location, you need to look at maybe where that company is located as well. Imagine if you're looking for salaries and you're in a rural area and you're thinking, oh, I can only make X, and you're applying for a company that typically is hiring out of San Francisco. Their comp is going to be much more higher. So you don't want to discount yourself. You need to have an idea of what your salary commands in your local area, in your state or province area, as well as your country kind of thing. I mean, most companies, if it's like a US company hiring in Canada, they're going to have different bands for all employees, probably typically in Canada, hire underneath that. But you don't want to, leave money on the table by thinking, oh, I can only make X because I live in Y city and they pay devs this amount, when in reality, that company might actually go, actually, we hire on the average of the Canadian bands, which could be higher. So it starts there. Also, I will say that you want a sense of urgency. Even if there isn't a sense of urgency, I typically recommend people, like, you get asked, are you interviewing elsewhere? The answer is always yes. It's terrible to say, but you don't want to be in the spot of, no, this is the only place I'm interviewing at, because you flip the tables in the sense of, if they come with an offer, all of a sudden they know, like, you're not looking around, we don't have to worry about counter, we can take our time on negotiation, we can go back and forth. So you do always want to have some sense of urgency. Also, you probably should be looking elsewhere during other interviews as well. So, it is truthful. So once you get to this phase, this might be earlier on, still during the recruitment. Typically, actually, I'd say it's during recruitment, is you need to be making sure that you're talking about the same thing. So when you get asked, what number are you looking for, assuming that you're going to even give a number, you need to ask them, hey, can you walk me through your comp structure? Is it equity-based? Is there bonuses? Is it heavy on salary? Is it mostly just base comp? Because you don't want to give your base salary and they're thinking that that's your total comp package, because all of a sudden you're going to get an offer that looks a lot less than what you thought in your head that you were going to get. Making sure that you're talking the same language with them is definitely a thing. Like, you can go as deep as you want here. How often, what structure are the bonuses? What percentage do you typically expect in the bonuses? Is it performance-based or is it company-wide based? On evals, what does someone who's meeting expectation typically get? Is it 1%? Is it 5%? Because this is going to come into factor when you're thinking about your comp package as a whole. You might be thinking, a lot of times people just zoom into that very moment, just think about the offer. But you need to think about, well, what's next year look like? If they're telling you, we don't do formal evals and bonuses are based on company results, well, then you need to factor that into what you could be making and things like that. To tell or to not tell, do you reveal how much you want or do you not reveal how much you want? Recruitment early on is going to ask you, like, what are you looking for? What range are you looking for? And you don't need to say anything. I mean, the risk is that you get all the way to the end and you get lowballed and you wasted that time. And then you are honestly out of the company's range of hiring. I'm typically pretty open with it. I feel very comfortable doing like the research that I have done to get an idea of like what is acceptable and what should I be asking for, what's going to be just crazy for the company. And I typically just kind of come out, but what I will say is you don't want to give a range that puts you in a position of not accepting it. Let's say that you want $100,000 and you come in and you're like, well, my range is 90 to 110. And you might be like, oh, they'll just probably pick the middle number. Well, what happens if the company comes back and offers you the lower end? So now you're not even getting the offer that you actually want. And you're going to have to put in all this additional work on negotiation. And maybe it's just like you come back and you counter with, hey, I want 100K, and they go, great. But I would rather be in the spot of saying, hey, my lower end is 100K and my range is 115. And if they come back on the lower end, okay, we can negotiate it up if I want to do that. Or if they come in at 107 and meet me midway, it's like, actually, I just bumped up 7K on the offer just by setting a range. This is personal, up to you. Some people don't want to waste the time and get to the end and find out, hey, I'm way out of their bands. They're not going to be able to even meet me halfway or anything on anything. Wouldn't be a live stream without some live action. The next is negotiations. You have to realize it's a negotiation. Negotiate. When the company comes with an offer, I've worked at many companies and done many hirings, and I've interviewed at many companies, and I will say that I think a lot of people have this resistance to negotiating. So they're worried that the company is going to walk away. Like, oh, I got an offer for 100K and I can't ask for 105 because what happens if they just walk away? The company is not going to walk away. If you make a reasonable counter, the company is going to either just straight up tell you they cannot do it, or here's what they can do, or maybe we can't do that, but we can do this. I have never seen a company totally walk away. It doesn't mean that it won't ever happen. But my argument to people is, honestly, you probably don't want to work at a company that isn't willing to negotiate within reason to what you're asking. I'm not saying that they're going to be able to match what you're asking. I'm saying, like, if you're asking for, they're like 100K and you're like 102, and they're just straight up like, okay, we revoke our offer, too bad, like you can't work here. It's like, whoa. Like, that's probably not a company you want to work at. But we get in our heads that, like, oh, I either sign or I don't sign. And I think people, especially early on in their career, leave a ton of money on the table by not realizing, no, this is a negotiation. Like, you could move up more. This will probably be the bulk of the talk here, which is probably what people are most curious about, is like, how do I get more? My tactic on this, I mean, obviously you start earlier, you have your ranges, so you have leeway and there's expectations set and whatnot. But it's also risk versus reward. Pretty much every dev who comes and asks me, this is the offer I got, should I accept? I tell them, almost without reading the offer, no, you should ask for 5% more, which is crazy to hear, but it is understanding the effort that the company has to have put into to get to that spot. They have a position that they need to fill, or they have a desire to fill, and they spent all this time getting there. Now, for you to ask for 5% more, and if it's 100,000, it's 5,000, 200, it's 10,000, et cetera, and all that time and effort and recruitment efforts and the hiring manager and the teams, and now they're just going to throw it away for like $5,000. Probably not going to happen. I typically just tell people, like, and even if it's your golden offer, I've had people bring me offers and they're like, it's everything I asked for. I should just accept. I'm like, no, just ask for more. Say that you've reevaluated the market and you've been looking around a little bit more and you feel that the offer is more competitive with a 5% bump. And like I said, I never had a company straight up walk away and rescind the offer. I've never had it as a hiring manager. I've never had it as an interviewer. And the reality is we convince ourselves like they're a great walk. The reality is they're most likely just tell us, sorry, you're outside the bands. We cannot do that. So how do we get more money, right? Like, that's what we're here for. Even if the company says, no, we can't do 5% more. And that's your worst case in this scenario, right? Typically, the company's going to probably come back with a counter of like, we can do 3% more. Or if you ask for 10%, they're going to say, we could do like 4% or 7%. But let's say like they're really going to be hardball. Like, sorry, you're at the max of the band of the position. Okay, so I hear what you're saying on the salary. So could we move my total comp package around at all? And it depends on how big the company is and things like this, because sometimes the company will have a budget and budgets will come out of different departments. So let's say engineering has a budget for that position, and we'll just say it's a $100,000 position, and you're asking for $105,000. Well, that $100,000 is all engineering has. But we move outside of engineering, and recruitment or human resources might have their own budget to close recruits. So you could say, okay, how about more vacation time? Sorry, we have standardization on that based off of seniority and years you've been here. Okay, how about more stock compensation? And that might go back and forth, and they might say like, hey, well, that's gonna be a hard sell. I need like the CFO to sign off. And honestly, it's a negotiation. It's just how hard do you want the money? So you just go, okay, I hope to hear back. I hope you have that conversation with the individual who can make that decision. Let me know what they say. Because you have to realize, like, just like at buying a car, they have incentive to, close that offer that they originally made. So they're going to say the same things as you saying that you're interviewing around everywhere. They're going to say, I don't have the authority to make that. I'm gonna have to run that by like 3 people, and there's probably gonna be no, okay, run it by the 3 people, let me know. I mean, I should have had a slide to say like the best negotiation tactic is to be able to walk away from the table and have another offer. So that is something else you could do. You could counteroffer if you have another offer. Hey, company X is going to offer this. Can you match it? Can you not match it? Typically, I don't like doing that because it puts a sour taste in the other company, because you're coming to the table with a counter, and they're basically going to probably be like, well, if you're not super thrilled to work at the company and it's only about comp, like, probably better to let the person go somewhere else. But it all depends. Like, they're not gonna move stock comp, they're not gonna move salary, can't move vacation days because it's structured. Then if you're moving relocation package, hey, I'm moving from city A to city B, could you pick up my expenses of $3,000? It's a one-time cost. And no, sorry, it's remote or we're COVID, so we're not doing a relocation package. And then you just counter with like, well, can you do a one-time signing bonus to make up the difference? And you just have to mentally realize that the signing bonus is going to be one time. It is not yearly. Your bonuses and eval bumps aren't going to be on that signing bonus. So it's strictly just a one-time cash thing. Probably want a substantial, like, if you want it 105, like 105,000, and you're going to just ask for the 5,000 signing bonus, you've actually lost money. Next year, you've lost $5,000 if you got it as salary. So you just need to factor that in. And your salary increases are on your base salary, and the signing bonus is not included. I will say that it comes down to just how hard that you want to be in negotiations, and just standing your ground. And ultimately, if you have a way of walking away, then you're in the best position. And you just have to realize that the company has spent this much time and effort getting this far with you, that they're not just going to close up shop and rescind the offer. So keep it in mind. I hope this helps you. I hope this makes you more money, honestly. So with that said, drink more coffee, continue learning, continue growing. And until next time, see you on Monday.